hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, on-premise model of finding data. It makes it even harder now, and then governance around that as we go forward. And so, given those kind of questions and building out this data supply chain, what do you think? So, summarize to us the strategic vision Daiichi Sankyo is undertaking around data and governance as it go forward.
A lot of the vision and strategic direction of the company revolves around growth. So we believe that we will, because of the success of the products that we're bringing to market, we'll see substantial growth. So a lot of the data strategy reflects supporting that coming growth. So we want to be able to scale the analytics platform, the data management strategies, in a way in the bigger organization that doesn't really create a drag as you get bigger and use these, more or less have more data across more varying subject areas. We want to make it simpler on a per unit basis, whatever, to be able to use that data consistently. And really, that's kind of where governance, I hope, will come in, is to create, manage, and enforce that consistency as we scale.
Yeah, I think the dependency on growth, to summarize that, dependent on data and the quality of data and the governance of data, is really has a CEO board level the kind of shareholder impact here, and the importance of good data in the company. And so, as I look at it, and across many companies, there are really some kind of key habits and behaviors, as I look at it, and cultural aspects of this for good governance or good habits. What do you think some of those are, which leaders need to exhibit or companies need to exhibit as they undertake these journeys?
So something like that can be answered at a couple different levels. At the executive level, I think the answer is they should keep a data focus in mind, ask questions about, we were talking a few moments ago, do I know what good data looks like? Does my insist on one of their metrics or one of the things that they look for in the organization? Is my data good according to those standards? I think that's something that is only sometimes done by executives and companies today, to have that kind of data quality view alongside their business, their other views that they're looking for. I think at the sort of general level across the company, the other thing is just awareness and education, making sure that the invested education, training, communications, to let the whole company know what they're looking for. What does a data governance problem look like? Like, how do you know when you have to raise your hand and say, yes, that is something we have to take care of? I think, so your question, I think you can answer it a couple different ways, but for me, those are two kind of starting perspectives.
No, it's good into the executive level around the metrics of measuring good data practice, and then education. And it reminds me of, if you go back to what security was like back in the early 2000s, and how we treated security across IT organizations. At the beginning, there was a lot of good education being put together, awareness programs, and then the tools and the processes and the discipline came about and continues to come about. I think, as I look at data and data within organizations as a business asset, a corporate asset, that journey is what we're embarking on, and kind of what the security functions did there as we go forward. And, again, in our industry, there's a lot of buzzwords. I mean, there's new buzzwords every other week coming about as we go forward. But you hear these terms, data lakes and data fabrics. What do you think they sort of mean to Daiichi Sankyo, your company, and the implications of governance in the company?
I think in your kind of new terms, I think data fabric's kind of newer than data lake, but I'm certainly a fan of both. I helped create some lakes in my past life, so I'm certainly a fan of the concept. So for me, the general idea is to create some type of consistent environment where you can manage data with all the things we just talked about. So we have some kind of monitoring and movement in a consistent way. So we can get it to, in a cleansed, standardized way, to an analytics outcome or to a business outcome. I mean, I'm going to generalize, I guess, but I think of data lakes as moving the data to the lake, and then that's your container. And then data fabrics as a kind of an overlay across disparate sources to give a consistent view of the data that you can still overlay those same capabilities, but you more or less leave the data where it stands, but you more or less layer in the interface. I like both ideas because it gives you an environment where you can consistently manage the data, and it gives you kind of guardrails or boundaries in either case to help with that management. Daiichi,
sorry. Great way of putting it, because kind of standardizing again across the organization into these data lakes as you go forward, but the ability to then interoperate that data.
Yeah.
You can then make adaptive to the organization in terms of growth strategies, as you pointed out earlier. So I think the whole interoperability, which is what data fabrics enable internally and externally, because I think a lot of this data, we've been focused with these data lakes, internal data, but a lot of the data is going to come externally as we move forward in the future.
That's a great point. I mean, I think you'll see external data repositories where people are selling their data. I think you'll see collaborations. I think you'll see partnerships. Like we are a huge partnering organization. All those will be good kind of expanded sources of data that you want to manage consistently and have this. We talked about security, have the security rules enabled and the understanding enabled.
Oh, that's good. And then, so, what kind of, let's assume we've got these data lakes and these data fabrics coming along. What kind of high value use cases is the company thinking about, or the R&D organization thinking about, which would unlock, significant growth and value as we go forward, as best you can share with us? Yeah?
So, I'm going to give you one example that's the obvious for my industry. The clinical and translational and research data all contribute to these drug products. I'll just mention one that I've been working on recently is the operational data. So the business of managing a study, do I have the investigators? Do I have the right sites? Do I have my plan information available? Do I have the financing? Do I have all the attributes of the business of running a study in one place? This, I think, illustrates all the properties of a good data management problem, because I have to bring data from disparate sources. I have to manage it through, standardize it, cleanse it to a certain rule. Then I have to establish both current state analytics outcomes, like what's happening today, and then hopefully lead towards predictive outcomes as well. So I just, in one of the high value use cases, I think there's a huge advantage to the drug products that you bring to market through the clinical, the translational, and the research data. I think it's also worth noting that focusing on the operational data and optimizing that gives you a significant business advantage as well. So that those are, to your point, a little general, but still some of the things we're focused on.
Okay. And how do you, as I look at it, repeatability and it's different to reusability. I'm just get into a kind of a philosophical discussion here, but repeatability. So you've got this high value use case, but then you want to reuse it. You've done a study there. You want to reuse that again and again for different purposes. How do you think governance around repeatability will be implemented in these kind of scenarios?
Yeah. So we did mention growth, and that's a constant topic. When you have a small number of teams or a small number of functions, right, that repeatability is important, but not as critical. When you have a large number of teams all doing approximately the same thing in different areas, that consistency is central to managing the portfolio in aggregate, to combining results where appropriate. And I think that we are, I hope, fortunate in the fact that we are enabling or enhancing, I wouldn't say, there's been a lot of work done to date, enhancing the governance practices so that consistency as we grow between teams, between projects, between functions improves and helps us scale, again, without the kind of friction that occurs when you don't have that governance.
Okay, that's good points there. And how does technology tools and you got process, you got the people, educating the people and good behavioral aspects of managing data and putting those programs of education in place. But how do the technology tools come into play with different providers out there who are helping this journey in terms of the supply chain of data, optimizing that supply chain of data?
Yeah, one point, philosophical point. The market is quite there. There's a lot of choices in the market right this moment. There's the big players and individual niche players who all are bringing technology capabilities. I think it starts from, and you said it yourself, I think it starts from like a range that we need to do to implement across the organization. I think data focused capabilities like data catalog, which we started with, like master data management, reference data management, metadata management, right? I think these data quality, don't forget that one, right? I think these are all good subject areas that we want to make sure to include. How we do that, which technology platform, which group, I think becomes a very individual journey for each company.
Okay, and in your organization, is that working with the enterprise architects, the technical architects in the organization to sort of weave that fabric of technologies together so it can enable the kind of growth plans you have? Yeah,
I mean that's a huge point, right? So my role in governance is not notionally technology oriented. I partner with the technology groups. My role is to say something like, here are the standards or here are the structures we'd like consistent. And then I work with our partners in the technology organizations to say, well, okay, do you mean this or that? And then we come based on the technology standards and other constraints, come to a consistent solution. So it's really a partnership to try to bring that kind of capability to life.
And then that kind of dependency across between the technical teams, and then now that also goes back to the cloud, how the cloud technologies all weave into this as well. It's not an easy puzzle to go figure out technically as we go forward.